you have made it through every difficult situation. If you're listening to this right now, you have made it through every difficult situation in your life because you are alive. You made it through that. And now you have these tools, you have this built up in you. The more difficult things you go through, the stronger you're going to be because you have these life experiences. But it's just the difference in constantly reminding yourself that this troubled time, I'm going to get through it, and knowing that God's never going to put me through something that he doesn't know I can handle. So it might be hard, but I'm going to get through it. And now I'm even better on the other side coming out of this.
I'm David Sams, and this is CIA, Contagious Influencers of America, the podcast from the producers of Keep the Faith. Now, I just got back from walking 5 miles. 5 miles! You might think, who cares? Well, let me tell you, I've been walking 5 miles a day for the last 4 months since COVID-19 began. I'm recording this particular episode of CIA here just going into August, and I have been on a mission of walking between 3 and 8 miles per day. And I've only missed 3 days in 4 months, and I made up those miles the following day or that week. And I'm telling you this because I decided that I was not going to let COVID-19 get to me. I was not going to let the fact that I'm a single guy and I live alone. Well, I have a cat. I was not going to let that isolation get to me. The first couple of weeks, I thought I was going to go batty. I thought I was going to go nuts. I had so much anxiety in me, and I prayed about it, and I just asked God, give me an answer. And one day I went out and walked. I walked, and I'm like, you know what? This is pretty cool. I'll bet you I could do this every day. And if you do something consistently for 28 days, they will tell you that it becomes a part of you. It becomes part of your DNA. And today I have a guy on the show that is going to talk about that. He has come up with a 29-day plan for changing your life. A 29-day blueprint to redefine and achieve your success. David Nurse is my special guest today. I think this guy is going to be the next big thing. He has written this book, Pivot and Go, that is beyond amazing. And I tell you, I get a ton of books all the time from folks wanting me to feature them here on the podcast and on our radio show, Keep the Faith. I just decided, hey, you know what? I've got to interview this guy because, first of all, it's a great title, Pivot and Go, but we all are having to pivot right now. Our lives have been turned upside down, inside out, and by golly, we have got to do something different because the rules of the past have changed. We didn't even have a chance to discuss whether or not we wanted to change or how to change or when to change. They just changed overnight. You've heard me many times talk about how our tools in our toolbox were stolen overnight. Many of us we have bare toolboxes now. We have no job to go to. We have no church that is open. We have no friends we can go hang out with at Starbucks. I could go on and on. That is just tearing us up inside. Well, I'll tell you one thing that I did. I decided I was going to walk every day. I was going to walk off all of the anger, all the angst, all the craziness inside of me. And I was going to get out. I was going to get off the couch and I was going to get out. And that's what I did. And every night when I take my walk of approximately 5 miles, I listen to podcasts. I discover new people, new personalities. David Nurse was one of them with his podcast. And on top of it, I talk to friends that I have not picked up the phone and talked with for in some cases years. And I'm having the time of my life. I can't wait until evening comes and I can go out and do my 5 miles. So I just hit 500 miles recently. 500 miles. 500 miles. Think about it. 500 miles I've walked since March. And it's we're now just about ready to go into, we're days away from going into August. So I'm going to have David Nurse on, who wrote Pivot and Go, and he is going to he's basically going to share with us how we can go from survival mode to just surviving to thriving. He gets it. We're all trying to just survive right now. But by just pivoting, looking at things a little differently, we can thrive. And, I made a decision to do that. Frankly, I decided I've got to unlock some brain cells that have been frozen in my brain for about 10 years. A divorce will do that to you. Big changes will do that to you. Self-doubt, anger, pent-up hurts. Boy, I tell you, things get to you. I've been working through all that. I've got a great therapist. Many of you are very encouraging to me on my social media, and I really appreciate that. But something else I do, and I think I do it well, is, when we got into this pandemic, I decided that I had to pivot and I had to look at things differently. And I've always been pretty good I always tell people I'm a chameleon, because the world is moving faster than the speed of light. And if you're not a chameleon and you can't change as fast as the world is changing and adapt as laser fast as the world is changing, you are a dinosaur. You got that? You're a dinosaur. And we're in a situation right now where we are all dinosaurs unless we are willing to look at things differently, unless we're willing to take some risks, and unless we're willing to pivot. So that's what I did. I pivoted big time, big freaking time. And as a result, I got a show on television on, I will tell you all about it after this interview with David Nurse. I know it's a little tease, but you're going to love it. You're going to be entertained by what I have to tell you, and you're going to be able to watch it on national television. So let's go to my interview now with David Nurse, author of Pivot and Go. David.
Hey, how you doing?
How are you? It's David Sams. Good to see you.
Good to hear you.
Yeah.
You see me? How's my hair looking?
You're looking good. You're looking good. Yeah, you're looking good. Hey, where are you today?
I'm in Marina Del Rey.
Marina Del Rey. Okay.
California.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time out there over many, many years, and I'm in Nashville, Tennessee now. So it's good to see you. We are in the process of helping people get their tools back because, middle of March, everybody's toolbox seemed to be pretty full. And by golly, all the tools got stolen overnight. And now we got to help people get their tools back and get rebooted. And the way you call it is finding your pivot. Yeah, finding a way to get back out there on the court. So give me a little bit of background about yourself and what qualifies you to write a book called Pivot and Go.
Absolutely. Yeah. So first off, there is no time better than the right now to embrace the pivot. As like you said, we all had our lives going the way we wanted to, and this thing happened that nobody could have predicted. Now, a lot of us feeling stuck in this situation. How do we get out of this stuck feeling, and how do we pivot this time for an opportunity of something far greater? And why it works perfectly now during this time too is my story, my background is I put everything I could to play in the NBA. Now I was from a small town, middle of nowhere, Iowa, basically the cornfields, and I'm 6'2" with shoes on, can't dunk a basketball, even touch the rim. So my chances for playing in the NBA were a little slim. My parents probably should have told me to play golf or tennis, but hey, they supported my dream. So I poured everything into playing in the NBA. Like, I didn't have a backup plan. I got to play college basketball, which was an amazing blessing, but I still didn't have a backup plan. It was NBA or nothing. And I'm playing overseas in this in this middle of nowhere Basque region, northern Spain, for a second division team. It was more like that movie of Will Ferrell and the semi-pro. And now I poured everything I could into playing in the NBA and developing my basketball skills. And this team was more interested in drinking beers at halftime and where the party was going to be at that night. And I get cut from this team. So not only am I so far away from the NBA, I get cut from a joke of a team, and it basically all my dreams rubbed in my face. And trust me, I felt really bad for myself. I felt like my world was crumbling down, like I had nothing. All my years that I've invested into this, gone, done. So I'm back. I'm literally living on my parents' recliner chair in a small town outside of Kansas City now for about 4 months. And my mom's doing dishes, and she always says these life mottos and stuff. And I just usually just let them go, brush them off. But she said one that stuck with me for some reason right there, that moment. She said, David, when one door closes, 4 open and an entire beachfront patio overlooking the ocean. And it was like, maybe it was kind of how obscure it was. It jumped out to me. I'm like, wow, okay. And I saw it there that all that I'd been putting to play in the NBA was not for me personally to play, but it was to coach others, to pour into others, all these detailed moments, all these intricacies that I'd learned to pour into others and help others. So right there, that moment, I was like, okay, that's why this is my pivot. That's why I've been doing all this. So I began training players that I'd played with, finding literally anybody that I could. I had a couple friends that had played in the NBA, so I started doing workouts with them. And I literally self-created a shooting basketball, had it made from China, shipped to the Oakland port with the only money that I had. I drove out 29 hours to go pick those balls up, put in my car, and I started on a 5-year journey of just driving and living out of my car, doing basketball camps for anybody that would have me in there. And it was my mission, because I realized that my pivot right there was not playing in the NBA, but coaching and helping players, pouring into them. And it led me to coaching with the Brooklyn Nets. It's led me to coaching over 150 NBA players of the highest level. And it's just all because I was able to make that small mindset pivot.
Okay, this is great, because a lot of folks right now, they had goals, they had dreams. They thought they were on a particular course. And then all of a sudden, COVID-19 came into the picture. A lot of folks have now ended up on their mother's couch, so to speak, like you happened to end up back at that time, and or living in the parents' basement or staying with friends. A lot of folks have lost their jobs, so they have to come up with plan B, C, D, whatever they're on at this point. So are you recommending that instead of looking at things the way that we may have looked at things 4, 5, 6 months ago, that you can get back up on your feet and you can go places you've never gone before if you just look at things differently?
Absolutely. And I'm not saying, hey, it's got to be a huge change, because change is very daunting. At the core, we don't want to change as human beings. But if we look at it from just a little small shift, and if you make small little shifts daily, it compounds, and the momentum builds momentum. And there's nothing greater than the 8th wonder of the world that I call the compounding effect. So it's about making these small little mindset pivots, looking at something from a slightly different perspective and looking at it as like, okay, not as this woe is me, all of this has came crashing down on me, but look at this opportunity that I've had to develop new skills during this time to really find my self-confidence in this isolation chamber that I've been in, and my true self-awareness, to pour into family, to spend more time with kids, and to really use this as a benefit growth tool. Because I'm guessing a lot of us didn't know what Zoom was before this happened. Now we're coming out of this thing, and it will get back to more normality. People crave human interaction, hugs, high fives. It will happen. And now we'll have this tool that, hey, we don't have to always go into the office. And so instead of looking at it like this is just came crashing down, and maybe financially it's backed us up a little bit, but it will compound if we make these daily mindset pivots to look at things from a slightly different perspective that can change our entire perspective.
So give me an example of one of the 150 or so NBA players that you have coached. using your strategies. Give me an example of a problem, an issue that one of the players had, and how you got them to look at things a little differently, and what impact it had on their ability to play.
Yeah, let me give you one of my favorites. He's not a very well-known name, but the impact was huge in his perspective change. His name's Sean Kilpatrick. It was a couple years ago, or 4 years ago now, when I was coaching with the Nets, and he was called up from the NBA D-League, which is like the minor league system to the NBA. So he was on a 10-day contract, 10 days to prove himself. He'd had a few 10-day contracts and stints in the NBA, and they didn't pan out. He didn't perform very well, and the NBA was kind of like writing him off. He was done. Now, Sean, I knew, was a very, very talented player. And when he played college basketball at Cincinnati, he was one of the best in the country, and he was dominant. So when he came on that bus when we were out in Los Angeles about to play the Lakers the next night, I remember him telling me, we sat down, and he was like, Coach, I'll do anything to make this team. And I vividly remember telling him, I was like, Sean, you are going to make this team. Now, I had no idea if he was actually going to make it or not. That was way out of my decision-making ability, of course. But I knew we were going to give him every chance and opportunity that he could have to make the team. And I knew we couldn't change his skill set, but we could change his mindset and his view and his perspective on himself, his self-confidence. So we stayed up late into the hours in his hotel room, and we went through old Cincinnati film when he was dominant, even back to his high school days at White Plains, New York, and he had a day named after him, and the mayor gave him a key to the city. Like, he was that player in his highlight reel. His highlight reel is who he was, not who the NBA and the world had now been telling him was a failure, but we lived in that moment, in that time, where who he truly was, the best version of himself. And we continue to watch that and watch that and watch that and burn it into his brain, so he believed that was him and not what everybody else was saying about him, his own perspective. And the next night we're sitting there in the locker room before the game, and I remember looking at him. I said, "Hey, Sean, where are we?" And he looked back at me. He said, like, confused look on his face, like, "Coach, we're at Staples Center." I was like, "No, Sean, that's where the Lakers are at. Where are we?" And it clicked. He got it. He's like, "Coach, we're in White Plains. We're definitely in White Plains," meaning he was going to live in that highlight reel zone of who he knew he was, not who everybody else was saying he was, just because he made that small mindset pivot. And he went out that night. We didn't win that game because we didn't win a whole lot of games that year as it was, but he changed the tempo, the energy, the atmosphere of the game. He got another 10-day contract. He got a contract extension to the end of the season, and then we got a 3-year deal after the season, and became a starter that next year. So I'm not saying it was not going to happen and wasn't in the cards, but his perspective changed just there alone on his self-belief, changed the whole trajectory of his career.
So for somebody listening to this right now who thinks, gosh, you know what? I'm now sleeping on my mom's couch. I lost my gig. My college education ain't get me a lot of places at this point. I just don't know how to get my head out of my mom's basement. What do I do to pivot and go?
Yes, absolutely. And that's a very common place for a lot of people to be in. But you got to realize that we are all given a God-given ability, a God-given gift. We all have strengths, different strengths for different reasons. Strengths that we can put together with other people's weaknesses to make that ultimate team. But understanding that you have this strength and understanding that you can pour into yourself these 1% steps daily that are going to lead you to the goal, the place you want to be at. And like I would say right now, for somebody in this situation, you're playing with house money basically, because you don't have, let's say you're in a struggling time. It's not a lot just like really clicking for you. So you're able to figure out what that passion is. So really figure out, and I know a lot of people talk about the why and how cool it is to talk about the why. But yeah, okay, figure out the why. But then the how. How are you going to actually make it happen? Taking these 1% action steps, these compounding effects. And I talk a lot about comparison, and people talk, hey, comparison's bad. Don't compare yourself to others. No, compare yourself to the people that you want to be like and see that, okay, this is what they took, the steps they took to get there. I can do this too. If they can do it, I can do it. And I'm living proof that if I can do what I'm doing and creating the life that I want to live, so can everybody else. So for myself, for example, I wanted to be the best shooting coach, the best NBA shooting coach. So I looked up who's the best NBA shooting coach, found him, the shooting coach for the San Antonio Spurs, Chip England. And I searched him out. I called him, I emailed him, I texted him. I even went to go find him at an NBA Summer League. And he saw all that I put into that. And he respected it. And he helped me and he guided me along. So I'm not saying it's going to happen that way. And it doesn't happen quickly. But you'll never know if you don't take the shot. And right now, if you're sitting on your couch or your mother's recliner chair, you're playing with house money. You can take these chances, take these shots, and it's all going to come down to the basis of what you can do for others. Because right now, it's not about what others can do for you. You got to pour into other people. You got to give without expecting anything in return. And that's when it'll come back to you. But understanding that it will never happen overnight. Like, for a quick story for you, is my uncle is the head coach of the Toronto Raptors, and they just won the NBA championship last season. And a lot of people say, hey, first year NBA head coach, wow, struck lightning, that's great luck. But no, he's been a head coach for 27 years at some of the most obscure places in countries that you don't even know play basketball. And I've seen him popping popcorn at halftime, taping people's ankles in the locker room before the game. But he treated every moment, every game like he was at that spot. So whatever your goal is, you got to figure out your goal, figure out your why. You're going to figure out people that have done it before, giving you that confidence that it can be done. And you're going to take these 1% compounding little mindset pivots and understand that it takes, one of my favorite quotes, 10 years to become an overnight success. Or in my uncle's example, 27 years to become an overnight success.
What do you do when you have these giants before you that are getting in your way, these mental giants that we all seem to face, and we all have a collection of them? How do you get these players to face the giants in front of them and to be able to overcome these mental obstacles?
That is such a great question. And we all have this self-doubt that creeps in. No matter how successful we are, whether you're the top NBA player, there's always some type of self-doubt that creeps in. And I'm really, really big on working with these players and CEOs and people that I work with on affirmations, of really affirming yourself in these God-given gifts that you have, that these abilities inside you. And that's literally what Pivot and Go is about. There's 29 days. And 28 is the term to make a habit, and 29 is your choice to make it a lifestyle. So there's action steps at the end of each chapter, which are literally cue cards, little small sayings that are going to put you in these type of mindset pivots, put you in these affirmations. So I have scattered all over my apartment are these different sayings that are going to build me up in who I am. Because every morning we wake up with what I call the foggy mirror. And this is one of the chapters. That foggy mirror is the self-doubt. So we see this, okay, the world's saying I'm this, or I can't do this. All right, they must be right. So there's that foggy mirror. But we get the choice every morning when we wake up if we want to wipe that foggy mirror clean and live in the self-confidence of who we truly are. So the tools for this are daily affirmations. And in the book, there's different cue cards that I have that you'll take out and you'll place them in certain areas. So it's continually to put into your subconscious of, okay, I'm not the person that's going to be a failure. I'm not the person that can't make a cold call. It's going to be the person that is going to be the best version of themselves every day, because you're constantly seeing these reminders. And I'll have for my players, another tool that I use is just the one word. So they'll have one word that they can always say that'll bring them back. It's kind of like a trigger, and it'll bring them back into that state of mind. Okay, this is who I am. Like one of my players, his word is relentless, and he'll say that word relentless and he'll know, okay, this is all the work that I put in to get to this point. So it kicks you back in that frame of mind. But it's just the balance of knowing that, hey, there's always going to be these self-defeating negative thoughts that are weighing us down. But do I buy into these, or do I wipe these clean and I live in the affirmations of who I can be? And once again, this compounding effect, time after time, waking up every morning, doing this daily is going to breed that self-awareness, self-confidence within you.
What do you do with someone who has past pain, past hurts that they just can't seem to get? They can't seem to get past those things. What do you do to help them get on the right track?
It's a great question. That's perfect. This is one of my favorites. It's how you look at it. You look at it as these pains are things that are happening to you and woe is me, or do you make the small mindset pivot and look at it like this is happening through me to help others? Now that I've gone through this difficult experience, somebody else down the line is going to go through the same exact thing. And now I have the tools. I have it happen to me. I can share with these others and help these others in this situation. So it's the mindset of just surviving versus thriving. So any difficult situation that's thrown at you, you have made it through every difficult situation. If you're listening to this right now, you have made it through every difficult situation in your life because you are alive. You made it through that. And now you have these tools, you have this built up in you. The more difficult things you go through, the stronger you're going to be because you have these life experiences. But it's just the difference in constantly reminding yourself that this troubled time, I'm going to get through it, and knowing that God's never going to put me through something that he doesn't know I can handle. So it might be hard, but I'm going to get through it. And now I'm even better on the other side coming out of this. I can look at this as my head's not below the water. I'm not just trying to survive day to day, but I'm actually thriving for myself, but more importantly for others.
As we look at moving forward and we realize that plan A just isn't going to work out, ironically, sometimes plan A is the plan that we had in our head, but God really intended us to live another plan. We have to go through this stubborn sort of, just get over ourselves, part of our lives to move on. How do you deal with a stubborn player who just thinks, gosh, you know what? I had a plan. That was my plan. I know it was the right plan, but yet it never worked out. And the guy just can't get it out of his head that, that's not what God's plan was all along anyway. How do you convince him to look at things differently?
Yeah, that's another. You come up with great questions, and it's not easy because at the core, if somebody doesn't want to see something, if they're blind to something, or they don't want to change, they're probably not going to change. It's going to be more pulling teeth. But over the constant time of working on them with these tools that I've been talking about. But the biggest thing is just looking at it as what I started with, that when one door closes, that just means that 4 are going to open in a whole beachfront patio property overlooking the ocean. And a quick example of that for myself is, like I was telling you, I got to coach with the Brooklyn Nets. I was a coach in the NBA. I had achieved my goal. This was my pivot. This is what I was made to do. This is my plan. And I helped take the Brooklyn Nets from 28th in three-point shooting to 2nd overall in the season I was there. And my path was sealed. Like, I was going to be a great NBA head coach. But at the end of the season, the whole new staff came in and I was fired. I was done. Like, there it was. Another door closed. But now, see, I was able to look at that as it's an opportunity for something greater to come. And if I would have still been coaching in Brooklyn, I would have never met my amazing wife. I would never been able to live in Los Angeles by the ocean, looking over that ocean and being able to coach NBA players personally, write a book, motivationally speak over 50 countries. Like, those opportunities would have never happened if that door didn't close. So as tough as it is in the moment of thinking this was my plan, this is what I poured everything into, and it's all over, it's just helping these players see that people have been here before you. It's happened before. Like, their plan hasn't gone according to exactly how they wanted it to, but it went so far, so much even better. And I'll just give you another really quick story about one of the players that I've worked with. I grew up with him. His name's Kyle Korver. He's one of the best shooters in NBA history. And in high school and college, in high school, he wasn't really recruited at all. But he wanted to be an overall player. He wanted to be a ball handler, an attacker, and do everything. But his great strength is shooting. Like, he can shoot like none other. And until he finally embraced that, like, okay, my plan to be this great overall player is not going to come to fruition. But if I focus on just this one thing, this strength that I have, this God-given ability that I have, I can make it my career. And he did so. And he's went on to be literally one of the top 5 NBA three-point shooters in NBA history, because he didn't just sit with this plan that he had. He realized there was a greater plan.
David, you have been phenomenal. I'll tell you, I want you to coach me. The book is called Pivot and Go by David Nurse. How can we find out more about you? And by the way, do you do coaching sessions? Do you do, if somebody wants to hire you, how do they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. I do coaching for CEOs, for Fortune 500 companies I've been doing a lot for. And you can find me at davidnurse.com. Email's on there, very easy to get a hold of. Social media is David Nurse NBA on Instagram and Twitter. My podcast is the 1% Podcast. And basically, you can go anywhere to search books. You can find Pivot and Go and get that. Or you can come out here to LA and we can meet up and have a great meal.
I agree with all that, but I don't know where we're going to have a meal in LA at this point. Are the restaurants open, or are they closing again?
They're closing again, but I'm talking about my gourmet chef abilities. I'll whip you up with me about it.
All right. Well, hey, I'll fly out there and get my. I'm sure we'd have a great time together. David, thank you so much. It's been wonderful. I appreciate you, man.
You're the best. Thank you so much.
So what did I tell you? Was he great or what? David Nurse, the author of Pivot and Go, the 29-day blueprint to redefine and achieve your success. Now, I will tell you, he also has a phenomenal podcast, and I just guested on his podcast, and it's called get this, the 1% Podcast. So check it out, the 1% Podcast with David Nurse, and definitely pick up this book, Pivot and Go. You know, I'd never recommend books. Very rarely do I recommend books, but this is one I absolutely must recommend. It's available wherever books are sold, and of course, you can get it online at Barnes & Noble and or Amazon.com, which is where I get all of my books because I'm not venturing out right now. Not much anyway. First of all, let me just give you a little teaser about my new show that's on the air now, and then I'll tell you a little secret. And here's a little teaser. It could be devastating. Now that's my other voice. That's the voice of Roller Games. I don't know if you remember Roller Games from when you were a kid. I produced that show in 89, 90 out in Hollywood, and it was syndicated across the country. In most cities, it played on Saturday night against Saturday Night Live. And guess what? It is going to go on TV again on Fox Sports. It'll be on Fox Sports 1, Fox Sports 2, and they're airing it on the weekends, primarily Saturday evening, in and around late news time, depending on your time zone. I think in New York time zone, it's going to be like at midnight Central, it's 11, and I think West Coast, it's like 9 o'clock, something like that. And you have to check it out. It's going to be fun. And what was really fun for me is that, I told you I had to pivot. And I had to unlock some brain cells that have been all locked up inside of me for a decade. And I decided to go to my vault, see what I had in there, and make some magic. Make some freaking magic. And that's what I did. I pulled out all of my episodes of Roller Games that I produced with my producing partners back about 30 years ago. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to have some fun with this. I'm going to get this back on TV. And not only did we get it back on TV, we took it from standard def to high def. We took it from the old TV format to 16:9. And it looks daggone good. And I'll tell you, I look daggone good too 30 years ago. I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah, you're going to see me with jet black hair. And it's interesting. And my buddy Chuck Underwood, who's my co-host, actually he was the play-by-play man. I was just the screamer. And then Shelley Jacobson was our trackside announcer. I think she became a bigwig with the Phoenix Fire Department over time. It's so cool. You're going to have fun with it. And like I said, it was all about me pivoting. It was all about me getting out of my isolation cage in COVID-19 and just breaking out of it and using the brain cells that God gave me that I haven't used in a long time. And I think one reason I was willing to do that was because, number one, I was in jail, like you. I was under house arrest, and I had nowhere to go. I had literally no distractions in life. You know, I'm not going out on dates. I'm not, I make my grocery store run and I make my Costco run once a month. And, I think I've been to, where else have I been? I think I went through the Chick-fil-A drive-thru once. I've not gone to a restaurant since middle of March. I've not been on an airplane since middle of March, which is very rare for me because I'm a big-time traveler. You know, we have radio affiliates all across the country, and it's important for me to break bread with the program directors so they keep our show on the air. But they understand nobody's really going anywhere right now. So, you know, we always have Skype and Zoom and the telephone. So, yeah, I was in like isolation, which I guess is a good thing because I could have been here with the wrong mate, right? Well, fortunately, that wasn't the case. And my cat has been really great. He talks to me, talks back to me. We have a great, great relationship. But that was fun. So check out Roller Games. It's going to be on Fox on weekends, late night Saturday and Sunday, primarily, on your local cable or satellite station. Roller Games, or as I say on the show, Roller Games. Yeah, okay, enough of that. But I really want you to check David Nurse's book, Pivot and Go, because it is your blueprint, folks, for your 29-day, really, he's going to help you to redefine and achieve your success. And I guarantee it is a great read and an easy read, okay? Hey, listen, I really appreciate you stopping by the podcast. Please share it with others. That would really be cool because when you share, you spread the love and you spread the good word and you spread all these ideas by all of these contagious influencers that we have on the podcast, which is really, really cool. You know, share it on social media, okay? Would you do that for me? And please do write a review and hit that like button. And give us 5 stars. That would be very helpful because people really do pay attention to that sort of thing. Check out our radio show at Keep the Faith on your local radio station. And if you don't know where to find it, go to KeepTheFaith.com, KeepTheFaith.com. And not only can you find the stations, but you can find some great programming right there on our website. I'm talking phenomenal programming. Regardless of what you're going through right now, we've got great, great content on the website that you're only going to find on KeepTheFaith.com. You're not going to find it anywhere else online. So please do that. I would really, really appreciate that. I'm David Sams. You've been listening to CIA, Contagious Influencers of America, the podcast from the producers of Keep the Faith. Be sure to go out there and live that life in living color because it sure is a heck of a lot more interesting than living in black and white. We'll see you next time.